Hi guys, welcome back to another lesson on GameMaker. In this lesson we're going to look at setting your room up with some of the things that you've created in past lessons and turning some of those sprites into objects. And objects we can add events to, and we're starting to get into the programming of GameMaker. So the topics we're looking at today are creating a room, adding backgrounds to the room, and we'll add multiple backgrounds to the room. We will create an object, so we're going to create the chicken object, and we'll actually add that chicken object into the room as well. And we're going to create some events that relate to that object. So the chicken needs to be able to move in the room, and we're going to add some keyboard events to allow it to move left and right and then stop when you're not pressing a key. So the learning intentions for today are how to make a room, understand how to make a room, understand how to add backgrounds to a room, and we'll be adding multiple backgrounds to the single room. Learn how to create an object, which is very similar to creating sprites. But the difference between sprites and objects is objects you can add events to, so we can start to program them to do things. And then we're going to learn how to add those events to the objects. And the object events we're going to add are just moving events, so left and right for the chicken that we're going to create, and then when we release the key that it stops. So your success criteria for today's lesson is the fact that you have created the room. So creating your first room in the Chicken and Egg GameMaker program, adding the background correctly, and you have to modify the background a little to get it to position a couple of the objects to position correctly within the room. You will be tiling the sky that you created originally, and you'll be positioning the barn, which is a sprite object, to sit in an exact location. Then we will create the chicken object. So it's very similar to creating sprites, and I don't think you'll have any trouble with that. And we've got to add some events to that object. So we're going to move the keyboard events around. So if you can successfully do all of this, you've achieved today's lesson. So let's get into it. So we're back into our GameMaker file, our chicken and egg file, and we're up to the stage of creating a room to put some of our resources in and start getting the game structured. And the room is where you basically play in. So you're creating up the playing environment now. So if we go up to Resources and we create a room, it drops down into the room area, very similar to creating your other objects, as in you need to give them a particular name so that you can identify them when you get into doing some of the programming. So I'm going to the Settings tab, and I'm going to call this room, and we'll just call it first, and in the caption area I'm going to put chicken and egg. And that chicken and egg caption should appear up in the top banner in the room when you're playing it. So in the background, we're going to go for a background that looks like grass. We're going to also use our sky, but for starters we're going to put a background in that looks like grass. So I'm going to choose green and click on OK, and we have the green background. Now while we're in here, we should be able to also choose our sky file. So if we go into here, we'll see sky, and we only want to tile it horizontally, not vertically. So if we take that off, we then have the ground for the chickens to walk on and the sky as a background, and that's looking good. So now we're going to set a second background image in our room, and we're going to use the barn. So if we go to background 1 and we choose barn, and we make sure the tiles aren't switched on, so we end up with one barn, and we want to set the Y position to 192, which should sit the barn nicely on the ground. And then we should be able to click on the save button to save the room. So now we have our first room sitting in Game Maker, and we have a few objects created, or a few sprites and sounds created that we can use within that room. Rightio, now that we've got our room set up and we've got our backgrounds in, we're going to create an object. Now this is an important time because you get to see that naming convention used, because you're going to now create an object called chicken, and you've already got a sprite called chicken. It becomes much more complex in bigger games, so it's very important to name these right with the right naming conventions. So we're going to go up to, this is our little object creation icon. If we go into resources, it says create object, same icon. So if we click on that, and we're going to create a chicken object. So obj underscore chicken. And we're going to use the chicken sprite. So over here it says which sprite you want to use for this object. We click on the chicken sprite, and we're ready to go. We've just got to add some events to it. Now you can add events to objects, you can't add events to sprites. So we need this chicken to be able to move left and right when we press the left and right keys on the keyboard, and we also want it to move, to stop moving when we're not pressing a key. So to do that, we're going to add some keyboard events in. So if we go add event and we choose keyboard, and the first one we're going to do is left, and it puts a little left in the event. Now we've got our fixed moving or moving fixed icon here. If we drag it in and we choose the left arrow and we give it a speed, we're going to make it a speed of 4, and we say OK. So we can then add another event. We'll go keyboard event and we'll choose right. We'll bring our fixed moving in again. We'll choose the right movement and again 4. And we click on OK. So we've got our left and right, but at the moment if we press that in the game, press left, we've got nothing to stop it. If you press right, it'll go right again, but you've got no way of stopping the chicken from moving once you've created a move. So we're going to add a new event. We're going to go keyboard event, and we're going to choose no key. We'll bring our fixed moving in again, and we will choose the center button. So no key is pressed, and we'll choose OK. If we save that object, which is object chicken, it should save over here in the objects area. Click on OK. And then we should be able to go and test our room by clicking on the run game icon. Now I've done this a couple of times in practice. The first time I did it, I got an error. So I just shut Game Maker down completely, started it back up again, and the second time I pressed it, it worked. I'm not sure why that is, but if you have an issue with running it, try that. So if we go run game, it saves the executable, and it should open up the room for you to play in. Now we haven't put the chicken in the room. That's my mistake. So if we close that back down and we go to the room that we created, and you'll notice here there's a number of well, there's only one object available at the moment because we've only got the chicken object. So because it's available, this little thing would allow you to choose different objects. Because it's available, if you left mouse click, it'll put an object into the room. If you right mouse click on it, I think it takes, or you can go delete and take the object out of the room. So at the moment we've got the chicken in the room. If we go and save that room, and then we go and run it again, there's our chicken sitting in the room. If we press our left key, it moves. If we release the key, it stops. If we press our right mouse key, it moves again. So guys, that's today's lesson. We've created a room, we've put the barn, the sky, the ground in, we've created our little chicken object that moves left and right, and when we release the key it doesn't move. Just a point, if this window on your screen is not active, the keys may not work. So just make sure you click in the window so you'll see chicken and egg up here as nicely highlighted in black, and then it will move. Anyway, have fun with it.